Hello, I'm back. We're back. New episode time. Um, so sorry that it took so long to get this one out. I think we've had it backlogged for like 3 weeks. I think 3 or 4 weeks. Uh, I'm very sorry to anyone who's been waiting on it, and I am extremely sorry to the guests in this one. They deserve to have it up way sooner. I know they were excited about it, and we loved having them on. And I wasn't in the episode. I'll get into why in a second. But I know that Dad had a very great conversation with them, and they're just awesome people. We have Muriel and Jamie Tapia from Hometown Coffee and Man of Delights. They're fantastic. If you haven't ever talked to them, you're missing out on just I don't I don't even know how to describe it. They're just like they just have this energy, both of them, that's like infectious. They're super cool people. Anyway, as to why I haven't uploaded in a month. I started a new job, so when I'm not working, I'm either sleeping or relaxing and not using my brain at all. Um, but I think I'm at a spot now where I can kind of mix. I can do both effectively. Not that this podcast takes a lot of work or effort to get uploaded. I do pretty minimal work on these, mostly because I don't know what I'm doing. Uh, but yeah, I have every intention of continuing to do this and also be very involved with the family business in my off time. But yeah, it's just been a process, and I think we're there now. So I believe there's a new episode being recorded either right now or later today. Another interview, and honestly, I don't even know who this one is yet. I think Dad's just in there talking to somebody. Um, but yeah, so I should have that one ready next week. So we'll be back to normal, and then I do plan on getting in and recording um, two or three more here very soon. Uh, so yeah, again, sorry to everyone who was waiting. Very sorry to you guys, Muriel and Jamie. We're ready though. We're good. This is gonna be a good one. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Don't Forget Your Roots podcast. I am one half of the equation, Darby. Jason is not here today, so I am going to have a discussion with Mariel and Jamie Tapia. Um, I have a list of questions here, but it'll probably be more of a free flow conversation. We do kind of a stream of consciousness here, so one thing leads to another, and we're not real rigid with our content. So
As it should be.
yes,
You'll be lucky if you get through all those questions with us.
yeah. I mean, and I might not need to. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the first one would be good enough. So for those of you who don't know, Mario and Jamie are the new owners of Hometown Coffee here in Union City, and they've been doing that for what, a couple of weeks now as owners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Week
This is
two.
our
This is barely week two. Yes.
week two open. Yep.
And then how long were you working there in the process of taking over? How long? Because it seems like we've been seeing your smiling faces there for quite a while.
Probably 6 months. I may.
The end of July. Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah, it took
yeah.
a while.
so wow, you're pushing almost a year here, real soon, believe it or not,
Yeah.
of being in there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now I have talked to you guys privately. I mean, just here and there as we cross paths, and one of the things that strikes me is that you guys are married, of course, and you have a little one.
Yes.
We'll get into that, but the first thing that I want to kind of dig into is you guys have been married for how many years?
11 years.
11 years.
11
You've been
years.
married 11 years, but you've been together for how many years?
Well, probably
I mean,
together.
how many
for-
years have you known each other?
Yeah. So married 11. We've probably been together 12
No,
or
we've probably
13.
been together like 13 or 14.
Okay, so 13 or 14, but
Yeah.
we grew up together. So we have
Yes.
videos of when we were little kids.
We have known each other
Um,
since we were 2 and 3.
Yeah,
So
2 and 3
So
years old.
2 and 3 years old.
yes.
I
Yeah, so
mean,
it's been a long time.
that is a love story that would make Taylor Swift way jealous.
Yeah.
Like
More
she-
famous.
she couldn't. Yeah.
She'd have a lot to write.
Yes. Now, is that something that do you think knowing each other that long, has that been a helpful thing in your marriage, or has it been maybe more challenging than if you would have met later in life? You know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Personally, I think we definitely didn't know what to expect. A lot of times we think it was easier, but then again, when we did have, let's say, marital issues or problems or things that we had to work through, they were just bigger because she knew me, she knew how I
Mhm.
was or the things I do, and I knew her.
Let's just say I know his girlfriends.
She
Ah,
knew all.
so you're beating around the bush a little bit, and you just spit it right out there. Let's
Yeah,
just
well,
say, I know your history, dude.
Yeah, because we grew up together,
Yeah.
and we went to the same
Yeah.
church and everything.
Yeah.
We were all in the same circle. So
Yeah.
there was nothing I could get away with.
Yeah.
Just as a teenager.
Mhm.
Then coming into marriage, I think it turned out to be a good thing. But it could also be dangerous just because you can get complacent thinking, I already know her, she already knows me.
Yeah.
So what is there to try? What is there
That's
to,
an interesting point right there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think as far as our background, that really, really, really helped because I think a lot of people go into marriage having like a different view in, just life, their faith, their goals and stuff like that. And we knew what we were getting into when we got into it. And that really just kind of, it was just from the moment we got married, it was just like, go,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And so it was, pauses have been very little pauses when it comes to that, because
Yeah.
we knew we were goal setters and go getters, and so I think that's really
So
been.
as far as reaching goals, I think it helped.
Mhm.
It definitely helped just because it cut back on the getting to know each other because we know each other already.
Except in the romantic area.
Other
Yeah,
Other
of
than the
course,
romantic
yes.
part
'cause
of that.
we actually didn't see each other that way, I guess you could say, till what was that, the 2 or 3 years before we got married?
Yeah. So his family was already here in Indiana.
Yeah.
They had moved maybe like 7 years prior, but because we grew up in the same church, and our church here stemmed from that church there.
Okay.
They
In Texas.
would go visit. I don't know what we would say, like 2-3 times a year,
Yeah.
maybe.
In Texas.
Yeah, in Texas. So we would see each other there, here and there. But it's not till we did a visit. My mom and I came to visit one time to Indiana.
And you're like, oh, Jamie, you grew
and
up.
I was just like, yeah, we were like, oh my God, hi.
It was the mustache, I would say.
It was the little one hair that finally grew out. No.
I love that. That is so cool.
Yeah, and so then we started getting to know each other in a different level there. Yeah.
Nice. So tell us about your little one.
Yeah, so we have been wanting to have a baby, a child, since probably in the first year that we were married.
Yeah, since we got married.
And God blessed us with a baby. So she is now 8 months, and
yeah, he took his time with her.
definitely took his time to let us have her, and so she's
But
here.
we're
So
blessed.
we're enjoying parenthood.
Yeah.
It's very different, but not as different as probably in my experience I would have thought, only because we've been busy for so long in our marriage with many things that this was just kind of
a little
a
adjustment.
minor adjustment as to
We
a
say
different-
minor, but it really is. It's a big
It's-
one,
yeah.
but it's not like.
Didn't feel that way because you were always so busy anyway.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
maybe knowing each other that long helped equip us for how
I mean,
hectic life can be,
I
and
think
just
also waiting on kids for so long really just kind of, I think we just knew in our minds like she's not a baby. It's not going to be something that gets in our way of like
what we want to achieve.
what we
or-
want to achieve, serving the Lord, being in our business, having family time, having relationships. Um, we just have to involve her
Mm-hmm.
and make sure she's around and she sees that. And so that's something that she'll be
Mhm.
used to seeing, you know,
Yeah.
rather than it is important. Don't get me wrong. It is important to take time away and spend it with them, but we can find ways to incorporate them in what you're already doing and make them feel part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of our goals,
Yeah.
so that she
Yeah.
doesn't maybe grow up resenting, that oh, my parents were so busy all the time.
Yeah. No, I get that. We were like that with our kids. I mean, we have 5, and
Yeah.
that's kind of, they grew up just, we were very tight knit. I
Yeah.
mean, just they've been along with us every step of the way in any ventures that we do, and we've always had family time and stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing, like when I see you guys, that I know with someone being so busy like you guys are, when I first met you guys and found out how many kids you had, it was shocking to me because I was like, they're so busy all the time. They didn't think they would have
How'd
that
you have
many
time for
children.
that many
Yeah, how
kids?
you have time for that, And then I see like after hours, like what we did,
Yes.
what you guys did here, and I was just like, man, that's special because no matter how busy you are, you pull time apart for that.
Yes.
And even though they're used to seeing you daily,
Yeah.
that's still like a little special moment, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's kind of what we strive to do with our kids too.
And that's kind of where, I mean, that just, I think that when, as she gets older, as your daughter gets older, you'll find ways that'll just naturally fit that cycle. Like right now, she's so young, she just,
Yeah.
just being with her is, she don't even remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't have an
Yeah.
effect, but
Yeah.
it's
And I
not, it's
think-
not as crucial at this
Yeah.
age.
And it's still difficult as a parent because you're like, man, I'm pulling so much time away from my child. But at the same time, like you said, they're so babies right now. It's things that they're not really going to remember. But the benefit of it in the long run is going to be so much, different,
Yeah.
better.
And I think that's the battle that kind of we have, where we know it'll be okay. With as busy as we are, we know it'll be okay, that she's feeling that we love her and that we're with her
Yes.
all the
Yeah.
time. But still in the back of our minds, always thinking, are we giving her enough time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think,
Yeah.
luckily we've been able to balance that. And
But I think that's maybe every parent.
Yeah.
How could it not be?
Especially working moms, that go back so quickly.
Sure.
I realize now that I'm a mom, like, man, it's got to be hard. First, you judge them like, whoa, how can they go back so fast? But it's like you don't know anyone's circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know what they're going through. You don't know if they need it or not. Or what their preference is. Now that I'm a mom, I'm like, have stepped back from not saying that I would be judgy, but yeah, I mean, like you still judge. Like
Yeah.
not meaning to, but you're like, oh, I don't want to go back that quick, but sometimes you don't have a choice.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So, the one thing that maybe people don't know about you guys, not everybody in town at least, is that you have another business. Um, can you share that one with us a little bit?
So we have a couple actually.
Well, whichever
so
one you want to start
our
with.
first business, the one that brought us into town, is our cake business. So we are Mana Delights. I'm sure at some point, the people from Union City saw the sign out when we purchased the building that's catty corner to McDonald's. And that's really what brought us to town. We have been having that business since we got married. And then that's what I meant by earlier by, once we got married, it was like it took off from
Yeah.
literally like 3 months being
in the
married.
first year,
And where were you guys when that business started?
in his parents' apartment
in Indianapolis.
in
Indianapolis, in your parents'
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah. So and I probably shared this
What
before.
what
Yeah.
started that? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what kickstarted that business, um, we probably 2 days before getting married, we had our wedding in Texas, because that's where all her family is, and we grew up there together. So a lot of people knew
That's
me
where
there,
everybody knew
and I
us,
have a
you
lot
know.
of friends there where they know both of us. So we made the decision to get married in Texas. So went to Texas, and 2 days before the wedding, in Indianapolis, I already had a mobile home, a trailer that we were going to move into to start off, to get us going on our journey. And 2 days before the wedding, friends called. It was we got married in January, and the piping, the water just bust from the floor, and it ruined the entire thing. So we would
Yeah.
have had to pretty much buy a whole new.
We came back to a moldy
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so that led us living with his parents for about 6 months. Yeah. And and a complete honesty and transparency. um
It was difficult.
it was difficult
It was
because when you
difficult.
marry, that's not what you dream of. You dream of having
yeah.
your own home. And
Well, boy, he tried.
yeah, he tried.
Yeah.
He really did try.
A for
And
effort.
I didn't have a job, and I couldn't find a job. At that time, I was illegal still. 'Cause I was brought here when I was 4 months
To
to
the
the
US, yeah.
U.S. So, um, it was I struggled to find jobs, but one thing that really helped me actually be able to become someone who people could depend on when it came to work, because I really took care of my jobs because of that fear of losing my job
Mm-hmm.
and not being able to find another
Yeah,
one.
it wasn't easy to come by then.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
it
Just things
really
that
put things
most
into
people don't think
perspective.
of.
Yeah.
No.
It's
So like the injustice and the difficulties through the job, I would suck them up because I didn't really have too many choices. So it was very, very difficult. You would think it wouldn't be as difficult finding a job here than Texas. It's a border,
further away from
it's a
the
border
border.
state.
Mm-hmm.
So you think, oh, further away, but I could not get a job. And I had background in bookkeeping, in office administration, and
Yeah.
accounting department,
On
and I
paper,
could
it
not.
was an ideal
Wow.
employee.
It was
Yeah.
great, but I could not find a job, and I got really depressed.
She actually
Mm.
went through a few orientations, and at towards the middle or end of the
Yeah,
orientation couldn't proceed,
because my
because
background
of the
wouldn't come.
background
Oh
and all
my
that. So
gosh.
there was a lot of ups and downs, even just in the first year
Yeah,
of being married.
so that was a real bummer for me because I was used to being an independent person,
Mm-hmm.
and now I fully had to depend on someone.
So in Texas, it was easier during that time to get a job than when you moved up here. Is that what you're saying? Am I hearing that
Um,
correctly, or is it just
no,
that it probably was the same, but you didn't have that because you were just coming of age and needing a job?
yes,
So
I
you
think that was so.
okay?
So I
I get it.
I got a job when I was in college. My first year of college, I was 17, and I got a job, and from there, when I went back home, I transferred to the same company, so I didn't have to seek anything else out.
Yeah.
And then after that, I did have to find another one, so I would work like in a small town business, family owned,
Yeah.
business, and kind of went from there into bigger companies because people would, how do you call it, poach me.
Yeah.
Companies
Yeah.
would,
Once
a
they
yeah,
poach.
would
yeah
poach
once
me.
you're yeah once you're hired, then it proves people want you.
Yeah.
So hey, if you're
So
hired, you're hireable.
yeah, so that's kind of how that worked out for a little bit. And then
And these were long stretches in Texas
yeah,
of working with each one.
I see.
yeah. So
So
I
just
probably had, so I started at a restaurant, and from there, one of my customers that would come, and they would wait hours to be seated in my section, because I really liked how they knew they were looking for someone, and they were like, hey, like, I know that this and that, and you're such a great worker, and this and that, because we really got to know each other.
Yeah.
You build relationships.
Yeah.
Um,
Hospitality.
yeah, through hospitality, and that's how I got my first not restaurant job. um, and I went into an office job, and I was there for a couple years, and then from there, I went into an auction company that the owner knew
The other
the
person.
the other business, and it was just three jobs that I had
Yeah.
from the time I was 17 to the time I was 22 that I got married. Um, so I mean that's how that happened. But
Wow.
going back to how the
Yeah.
cake started,
Yeah. So now you're back in Indy.
yeah, I'm back in
Difficult to
Indy.
find a
I'm having a
job.
hard time finding a job. Depressed because I'm living with my in-laws. My husband's working 12 hours a day, 12-hour shifts, comes home tired, with not really too much money to our name. And I would tell him like, just take me out to McDonald's at least to go. And he wanted to come home and
Yeah.
stay in, and I'm like, I need to
I
get
need to get
out.
out.
I need to get out. But I was just kind of depressed a little bit and was binge watching Cake Boss. Um,
Wow, that's
I binge
amazing.
watched Cake Boss, but it's crazy. Like now that we look back at it, how kind of God allows things and just puts things together. And that I think if I wouldn't have gone through that phase, I would have never had any kind of inclination of.
And here I was thinking that I got lucky that she found a show to watch staying in house. So I'd come home, not want to go out. All of a sudden she's binging on a show. So I thought, okay, I'd do that with her, thinking, oh,
Oh my.
Yeah.
it'll be a gesture of mine, and to spend time with her. But in the back of my mind, it's like, I'm so glad this is at the house and we don't have to go out.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so did you grow up baking?
No. So my mom's oven was broken for 10 years.
Before getting
Growing up, before getting married, and before then, like I was too busy with school activities. I didn't know it. And honestly, I
Oh
never went
my.
into the kitchen. To be honest, okay, so I'm the only girl out of three siblings. Got two older brothers, and again, all transparency, they can cook better than I can because I was a baby and I was spoiled, and I was okay. I was very focused in school, and not sports wise. I was a nerd. I was a nerd. No, I was a scholastic. And I preoccupied myself with a lot of after school activities when it came to that. Doing HOSA, doing I was in the French club. I did several things, and I stayed busy with that and church. And so my mama would always cook me up my meals, and my brothers would actually enjoy being in the kitchen, so they would whip up stuff, and I never had to touch anything. Then I was getting married, and I was starting to panic because I was like, "What am I going to cook for my husband?"
And I didn't know any of this beforehand.
Yeah.
As
No,
much
you
as long
grew
as
up
I've known
together.
her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we knew each
and
other
it's
all the
funny
time.
because
I
we
didn't know
we
that
grew
part.
up together, so we grew up with the same kind of background in knowing, like, oh, we're homemakers. We're the ones that cook the food for the
As far as the culture goes,
husband.
yeah.
They're the
Yeah,
ones that go
yeah.
out to work, But yeah, it it worked out, it worked out. But yeah, we hadn't. I didn't. The only time I ever turned on an oven was in home ec in high school, and that was years from that.
Wow.
And yeah, I was just I had a
You might want
vision.
to come down just a hair
Oh,
on
sorry.
there because
Cover my
sometimes
face.
it'll clip if you get too close.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a happy medium. We're not the ones that have like the big giant
I get too
boom
excited.
stands and all that. So sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So yeah, so I was depressed. I was binge watching, Cake Boss, and I'm just like praying
love
for a
that.
job, and I get visions, and it came to me three times, and I said, I saw myself baking, and I was like, Lord, I said, I have never touched an oven in my life. I don't even know how I'm gonna do this. I had three questions, and God just responded them before I was even doing my question, you know. And the first one was, how am I gonna how am I gonna bake? I don't know anything.
How you gonna learn?
How am I gonna learn?
Yeah.
And like the first thing that came to mind, which I know is God's quick response, was like, it wasn't even like my child. No, it was like YouTube, Google, Cake Boss, like just all these things that you've been seeing. And I was just like, okay, well, I don't know anybody here, so who am I gonna sell to, and then I had this vision, and I saw like a bar top, and it had like cake stands and it had treats on them, and it said take one.
Oh my.
And I said, okay, so I guess I'm gonna start off by giving away my work, which is fine, because
That's a good way to
because
get
I was
your,
like, I
the
don't know
name out.
anybody. I don't know anybody. I don't
Yeah.
know
This was in
who.
the first
Like
year of getting
the
of
3
married.
months in, I
Named
was like, I
Indiana.
don't, and the third question was, how am I gonna get the income?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it came back to that revelation to I just kept seeing the same thing. And I said, okay, after three times that happened, I said, I'm gonna tell my husband about it, because I've always called him my brakes. So I'm the type of person,
You're the gas pedal.
yeah, whoo, like you give me an idea and I'm like, let's roll. And he's like,
she
hold on.
needs
He's
the
like,
breaks.
hold on. Did you think about how you're gonna do it? And I'm like, no, but it's easy, because you should, you could just do this and just get it here. And he's like, how? With what? Where are you gonna pull it with? Where, and I'm just like, oh, you're right,
And then,
you're right.
and then when I come up with something, all right, let's think this through. No, let's just go with it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
oh,
get
okay.
so frustrated because I'm like, it's not hard. And then it ends up biting me in the butt. But
Oh
so I was
my
like,
goodness.
okay, he's my brakes. So I told him, I said, hey, babe, I've been having these like visions and dreams. And I said, but they're crazy, and kind of like started explaining. And I was like, just to bake cakes. And he's like, let's do it. And I'm like,
Oh, he was supposed to be the
hold
break.
on. I was like, hold on, this is not back it up. You're supposed to be like, no, because you've never baked before in your life. But I think he was so maybe overwhelmed with seeing me depressed that he was just kind of like,
Yeah.
whatever idea you have, roll with it. Like, please
And-
do
and
Something's
something.
better than
Yeah,
nothing.
and I
Yeah.
had been seeing the whole process. All of a sudden, oh, I got the interview. Oh, great! And then all of a sudden, oh, I got the job.
Yeah.
So here comes orientation. And then all of a sudden, nope, never mind.
Yeah.
A few times, and
Yeah.
then
This
me exhausting my
doors in the face.
places where I thought, oh, they hire people all the time. Things like that, and then seeing her, going through a little spiral of depression for a bit, just because she was always used to being active and doing something.
Yeah.
And so when that came up, I don't know that I thought of what it really meant, other than she thought of something that she wanted to do, and let's go for it.
Like, yeah, just flow, like do it. And I'd be like, well, how am I even gonna? And he's like, well, because so our little brother-in-law's my brother-in-law, his youngest brother's birthday is in December, but his grandma on his dad's side had passed away in December. No, you guys went to Mexico because she got sick in December. She passed away
In
3
January.
days before our wedding. This is his dad's mom, and his dad was officiating our wedding in Mexico. So that was
Wow.
like, that was hard, and they came back from Mexico straight to officiate our wedding. And so it was just like it was so much that it was like he didn't get anything. So we were gonna celebrate his birthday in March.
Yeah, my little brother.
And so his was like, ask mom if you can make Abraham's birthday cake. And I was like, okay, that's this weekend, but sure, let's ask.
Got to
for
start
that.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Family will forgive quick, I
Yep.
suppose.
So I
So-
asked, and she was like, "Yeah, what do you need?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have any money." But he was like, "Well, what do you need?" And so they literally gave us. His dad gave us his card, and he's like, you can use $80 in there, And I went and
kinda sewing into our
yeah,
business.
so into our business. So I got my first
Wow.
rolling pin, and my
Unbelievable.
first turntable, and just like little small stuff. But later on, he took me to his job for the first time, and he was showing me around, and I
And
saw a
it
bar
was
top.
unrelated to the cakes. It was
Yeah.
just came to show her where I work.
I saw a bar top, and I was like, that's what I
That's the
saw
bar
in my
top.
vision.
That's amazing.
I said, that's what I saw. And by this time, 6 months had already passed. We had moved into our first apartment, and it was a 1-bedroom apartment, and
Very small.
very tiny, little itty bitty. It could have been the studio, but they decided to just add an extra door in there, I think,
Wow.
to add privacy. And when I was like, wow, I saw that. So what I had decided was, I found out how to make cake pops. So it kept taking me back to that vision. Like, I can't believe that I saw that. I can't believe, like, that was my how do you call it? My confirmation that it came from the Lord,
Mhm.
And I was like, it came back to that. That kept coming back, and I'm like, it's not a coincidence that it's coming back. So I kind of thought on it, and I said, I have to do it. I have to set something out and I have to put take one on it because that's the vision that I had.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and by
That's the
now
vision
she
I
had
had.
only done maybe two or three cakes.
Yeah, 2 or 3
birthday
cakes.
cakes for the family.
But I had scraps left over.
So let me ask you this: was it an immediate desire to I don't want to say copy or mimic, but to implement or put your own spin on the things you were seeing on Cake Boss, or did you start slow and just look like a typical mom bakes their kid a cake and
No,
or did you get ornate from
I
the
can
beginning?
pull up if you want right now this cake. It was a Ninjago
Yeah, it was like
cake.
a Lego ninja
So it
Lego.
was
Okay,
like
so you
a
went all out and did it.
in a dome, and we had chocolate covered Rice Krispies that looked like Legos. I mean, it looked like a kindergartner.
That's your first
had,
cake?
Yes, it looked like a kindergartner had done it. But yes, our first cake, we went all
Wow.
out.
So
I
you
don't
went
think
all out just
I had made a simple cake until maybe my 5th or 6th cake in.
And I don't know
Wow.
if we've thought about. I think the question you were asking, did you? I guess how'd you know that it was cakes?
What do you mean?
Like
No, I think he was asking
no,
if
but I'm
we
thinking
started.
about it.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
trying to
I
think
was
back.
going to go back to that. So
'Cause
yeah,
I'm
that's a
trying to
good
think back,
question.
like after.
Yeah, because
So
in other words, you sat there, you got into cakes watching Cake Boss, and then eventually, you felt like the Lord was leading you in that direction. But if it would have been Beat Bobby Flay,
Yeah,
would you
could've-
become a Michelin? Went after a
Right.
fine dining or barbecue,
I
or
think
Yeah.
I think what
like,
did
I
it
never
for
thought
me.
about
that's
that,
what I meant. Like,
actually. Yeah.
did you grow up with baking, or like why
No,
not just barbecue
no.
or bacon and
It's
eggs?
funny. It's funny because I have an aunt that passed away a while ago. I had turned 15 the year that she passed, I believe, and I am the last cake that she made.
Oh,
And she had a
she
cake
made-
business.
okay.
But I didn't really
Sure.
see any of that.
Yeah.
And I can kind of answer that question now that I think this is the first time that I could answer that really.
Yeah,
But
I never
it
thought
was
about it.
because when we were talking about we were still very new. We were still in his parents' apartment, and we were tossing names around jokingly because we were like, let's start a Facebook page or let's post these things. And my husband has this thing where he likes to talk big. Like we can be like negative $3 in the account, and he's talking about when we have our airplane or we have an air jet. And that it used to drive me insane because I'd be like, dude, we can't
no,
even
if we're
keep
gonna
money
make
in the bank
next month's
account.
bill, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And so and he was just like, oh, what are we gonna name it? And I'm like, this is cake too. What are you talking about? And just joking around, he said, oh, we're gonna name it Manna Delights. And we both started cracking up because I don't know if you know where manna comes from. It's in the Bible.
Sure.
Manna.
Yeah.
And it's bread that came from heaven. But in the we have some friends that are
They speak Hebrew and
yeah, so they're not Jewish, but they've studied that a lot.
Mhm.
And which I'm so bad. The Torah, the Jewish
The
book?
Torah.
Okay. The meaning behind it, not only behind the manna, is not just that it was bread from heaven, but it tasted the way you desired it to.
Mm-hmm.
So when
just for a vague example.
yeah,
You weren't settling for it. You were delighted in it.
yeah. So when he said that, we were laughing, but I was like, wait, hold on. But like, what if that is the name that we do? Because one thing that we knew, and going back to what we've spoken about from the very beginning, with the growing up together, having the same background, we knew that in anything that we did, we wanted to honor God. So it was like, if God's giving us this, then we got to give the glory and the honor back to Him, and that starts off by, by sending it. So I think that really, I think when we decided to do that, even though it started off as a joke, but we said, hey, no, like, yeah, we got to honor God. I think And that moment, God just delighted himself in it. And I think that he just kept on pouring out. I feel like I want to cry a little bit, but he just kept on pouring out. And going back to the vision that I had, going back to the vision that I
I don't
had,
have any napkins or
that's
tissues in
okay.
here. Sorry.
Going back to the vision that I had when we were in our first apartment, it was only 6 months in. We were 3 months
From
into
getting married.
from getting married, 3 months into starting the cake stuff.
Okay.
I stood up one night and I made like 70 something cake pops, 72 I think,
And that was a lot in the small kitchen.
and a small cake. I mean, and
What did your
one
in-laws
night
think? They were all supportive, I
they
assume.
They're the
from the
same.
so I when I started rolling out stuff my first experience with fondant, I didn't buy it, I made it. And I didn't know how to use a pin roller. And my mother-in-law cracks up because she makes homemade tortillas.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
flour
Yeah.
tortillas, okay? So she's like, rolling them out perfect circles. And I would try to help her out. And she was like, "Oh, like it looks like a little bear." So we would make fun of my little hearts and bears. And my first experience with fondant, I was making a 3D stand-up Batman cake for chest,
Probably
chest and head,
Wow.
foot tall. maybe.
chest and head, and I had to do,
Batman.
I had to
Goodness.
cover it in fondant, and I could not for the life of me get it wrapped around because I couldn't roll it out in a nice circle enough for it to go around. It was just in too many shapes. My
You
my
had hearts
mother-in-law,
and bears.
yeah, my mother-in-law had to step in and roll it for me. Um,
And
but
I was pretty good at rolling.
he
not
actually
really good at
was, yeah.
rolling. So then
He
after
was.
that,
He was the one that would roll out
So
my
then
fondant.
it was a teamwork makes
Yeah.
the dream work thing.
Yeah. So this night I made 72 cake pops, and I didn't even know what bags were. I didn't know bags existed to cover these. So we would literally take plastic
Yeah.
wrap,
Oh my.
cut
lay it
squares.
out, cut square. You know how hard it is to cut plastic
and
wrap
plastic
with
'cause it wants
scissors?
to bunch
It
up.
clings
just-
together.
oh yeah, that's the whole point of it. I know.
But we did it 72 little squares.
Wow.
That's
And
much
then
fun.
we didn't have twisties. We had ribbon. So we would
Had to
use
tie every one of
ribbon
those.
and tie it
Oh
up.
my goodness.
So I stayed up all night doing these things. And I was so overwhelmed. Morning came, he got up for work. He said, "You're still up?" I'm like, "Yes, take this box." I mean, I was like dead. That was my first all-nighter.
Wow.
And then he's like, "What is
First,
this
you said.
for? What am I supposed to sell them for?" And I'm like, "No, they're not for sale. You take them, you set them in the bar top like I saw in my vision, and you're gonna give them away. You put a little sign on there that says take one."
And I said, "Are you sure?"
So he said, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yes, because
wanna
that's the
sell
vision
'em.
that God gave me, and that's what I want to do." So being the Mexican that we are, and being on Mexican time and not American time, my husband was rushing into work late per Mexican time. So he didn't have time to ask if he could lay anything out or to even lay anything out. He just took the whole box to his desk and he sat down, put his thing on, and started taking calls because he worked at the call
No, I
center
did
for
lay 'em
Finish Line
out.
at the time.
I was able.
On
I
your
was
desk.
no, I laid them out.
Oh, you laid 'em out on the bar
I laid
top?
them out on the
Okay.
bar top,
Okay.
but I didn't put any labeling because I was in a
Okay.
rush.
I see.
So I laid them. I literally just sat them down, walked over to the manager, and asked her if I could
Oh, I guess you did.
have some pastries there. And she was like, "Yeah, that's fine." I don't think she hadn't even seen them or anything. She was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I sat down, and I was I was hired on to help start the bilingual customer service portion for that company, and so it was very busy, and it was even more busy that day. Thinking back, I know that was just kind of God's way of keeping me tied to my seat that day because of what He was going to do. So
because he wanted to sell them.
yeah, I
In
wanted
all
to sell
honesty,
it.
Yeah.
in all honesty, he
And-
was like, "No, I'm going to make some money out of this."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
And you're like, that's not the vision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a disobedience, you know.
I'm a rebel sometimes. So I laid them down, asked for permission to lay them there. They said it was fine. I didn't put any labels or anything, just sat down and put my headset on, and it was a call center. So I started taking calls. But there were so many calls coming in that someone apparently saw me lay them down on there. And they grabbed one and kind of came by towards my cubicle where I was. and they were trying to
You're
hand
just
gesture,
waving it, yeah.
like,
You're
you know, how
"Yeah."
much. And I was just kind of waving, like, no, that's fine. Go ahead. It's,
Oh my
don't
goodness.
worry about it. But I'm on a call and trying to type and everything. And so it was just kind of a little chain effect. So people started coming out and grabbing some. And it was probably 5 people that I said, don't worry about it. And all of a sudden, someone would come and leave $5 bills. Someone would come leave a $10
This
bill,
didn't mean
50
5.
cents.
It just meant like
They would just come and start
Yeah.
leaving it on my desk the whole time. And it was
Wow.
normal to be busy, but it wasn't normal to be that busy.
Yeah.
And I was taking Spanish and English calls. And so,
yeah, because this wasn't even on a weekend. It was like on a
No.
Tuesday.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So people just started leaving money at my desk.
So
So
he
then
just made a little box.
I started getting concerned because it's like, I mean, we didn't establish how much we'd sell them for.
Mhm.
We didn't put that they were for sale, and people were leaving $5 bills for one cake pop, a $10 bill,
I'm sure they
50
took.
cents.
I'm sure they took more than one for that.
They
To
walked by with just one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so then because the money was just sitting there, I went ahead and made a little box out of paper, just make a little box, and just started putting the money in there, and just put the box over to the side,
so people
and I
started
just
just
started
putting money in there.
doing my job, taking phone calls, and yeah, by the end of the day, I got home.
So he gets home and he's like, here. He's like all upset and like frustrated from the day.
So I'm gonna get in trouble.
And it's like $130. And I was like, what is this? Where I was like, where'd you get this from? And he's like, from your cake pops. And I was so irritated. It's like, I told you not to sell them. He's like, I didn't. I really tried to give them away, but we were so busy and people just kept bringing money. And I kept telling them no, and they kept feeling bad and they just kept putting it there, And we realized then, like, what comes with God's obedience, like the reward that comes with it. And I'm like, man, God gave me this vision from the beginning. This is how it's supposed to start out. And I didn't think about it twice until we just kind of threw ourselves into it, until I realized, like, hey, I gotta get, like, do something, like give something back. And
Yeah.
went back to that, and I was like, man, like that really humbled me.
And from there, I think that's where it really kicked off, outside of family or
Yeah.
people that we knew.
Yeah,
Because
because there's a girl. I don't know if you guys had a mutual friend in Finish Line, and they ordered a cake, and she reached out to me. She's like, "Hey, I saw," and I was like, "I'm starting off new." She's like, "That's okay. I saw the cake that you made," and so I was like, "Okay." And that girl just kept coming back every time, and we just kept getting better.
yeah. And even at my job, because I was working at the call center, they liked the cake pops, and the management
Oh
said
yeah,
they just approached and they're like, yeah, you can bring them. Just have your wife feel free to.
I would go
come by
once
and
a
just leave
week.
them there. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay.
I'd go once a week, sit down, and sell
Love
out on
that.
cake pops. It was
Yeah,
great.
so then we started expanding on the things we could make, and she
Yeah.
got a lot of the
Mhm.
practice in on the cakes, and that's how it really
Yeah.
really started taking off.
So you have a website for these, right? For your cakes. Like
Yeah.
these are, so anybody that's familiar with Cake Boss, you would realize that these are not just normal cakes. These are decorative and artistic works. And so it always blows my mind because one, I'm not artistic, and two, I know how finicky baking is. And so it's such a double thing. I mean, it's such a double challenge because you've got to be meticulous and precise on the baking end. So that's like a certain part of your brain. But then you also have to be artistic, which is usually accepted as an opposite part of the brain.
Yeah.
And so that to me is the challenge of the whole thing, is just you're bringing together the precision that baking demands, because if you don't do it right, it will not work.
Yeah.
Come out.
I mean, and so you got to have that precision, but then also to make it that something that somebody wants, especially like children and stuff, when you do these superhero type cakes or whatever. I mean, you did my 50th birthday cake that I was surprised. I didn't know about it, but other people in town, I think, had ordered it, and it was a bourbon barrel. And to this day, I mean, when we
And
were,
it worked.
yeah, it was an actual
Did you play
working
with
bourbon barrel.
it?
Oh yeah. It actually had a tap. And so there was actually a little barrel inside the cake. And for the minute there, I had no idea what it even was. And then, one of my friends was like, "You really don't know what that is, do you?" And I was like, "It's a bourbon barrel." And he's like, "It's a cake." I was like, "No way." We're sitting here messing with it and pouring stuff out and everything. And so mean, that was very just precise and neat, and it was delicious. I mean, everybody loved it.
I
So
loved it.
I mean that's the caliber of cakes we're talking about. This isn't like, Happy Birthday Johnny, and it's like a little sheet pan or
We
something.
can make those too, though.
Yes, yes.
If you ever need one.
Yeah, but so you have a Man of Delights website or something? What is that website?
It's just a Facebook and an Instagram, a Snapchat, and a TikTok.
Okay, and how do you get there?
So our Instagram is Mana MANA _ delights with an S plural at the end. Our Facebook is www.facebook.com / Mana Delights 112. Same thing for Snapchat is a little different. TikTok is the same thing. It's Mana Delights 112. Snapchat, I got a little crazy.
But I think that you can, if you would Google Man of Delights, I think I've done it, and,
Yes.
and it's the first thing that comes up.
Yeah.
Right? So, cha-ching! I mean, I would definitely. That's a beautiful
The
plug.
first thing I googled, the first time I googled ourselves, I was
Isn't that a funny
shooked
thing?
because I was like, "Oh my god, that's my cake!"
Yeah, yeah.
We had
And
to
it
make
was
sure
just like,
was.
"What? I didn't know our cakes were on Google."
So you're in Indianapolis, and you're making these kind of cakes, and you started to grow somewhat organically, but eventually you were taking these farther and farther away from Indy, correct? Like in terms of,
Yes.
if I remember right, like you guys
Yes,
had a pretty big business operating out of
Our
various
home, yeah.
apartments as you
Yes.
grew.
Yes. So
what's the farthest that you've delivered a cake
Chicago.
Yeah.
from Indy?
From Indy.
and carrying it, it was
Chicago.
already a tiered cake already assembled, carrying it
Yeah, that was a little.
to Chicago from Indianapolis.
And it with
my.
with AC on,
AC on
in the
blast,
winter.
just to make sure it's stiff enough to survive the trip. Because
Man.
Yeah,
yeah,
winter time.
The joys of small business, like
we
Yeah.
did that a few times, and then some of the customers, clients in Chicago would make the drive to pick up their cakes.
Yeah.
And
I see.
Kentucky, we've also delivered to Kentucky. Ohio, obviously.
Yeah.
Ohio also when we were in Indianapolis.
when we were in
yeah,
Indianapolis.
that's pretty far. I mean, a couple hours.
Yeah. But I think our farthest has been Chicago. I would say Texas, but it wasn't delivered. We were already there.
we
I see.
made
a
cakes over there.
But
yeah.
yeah. But we still do have several people who ask, do you deliver? Which is what we eventually want to be able to do with like smaller things like cookies and
I
cake
see.
pops and cakesicles and just little treats like that. But I do know that shipping
Yeah, we'd have
items
to
that
figure out
have
the
to
logistics
go
on
from
that.
one day to another because they need to stay cold is so expensive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
you can
steep
use
price.
like dry ice or something,
Yeah.
but then also the handling. I just don't know. Even I don't care how fragile sticker you put on there these days. It seems like people just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
care.
So my
Yeah.
my best
Just throw
friends my best friend started off as our employee, and when we moved over here, it eventually branched out, and she has her own business now, her own cake
And
business.
even I
Okay.
think God just lined everything up even there because she had mentioned she wanted to start her own thing in cakes. Now, normally people may get nervous because it's like we're making cakes and now you are an employee and now you want to start making cakes, but we were moving. So
I see.
Yeah.
now the best thing about it all is that everything she learned was almost from scratch from us and from my wife, from
Yeah.
Mariel. So
I had to learn with mistakes because no one
Yeah.
no one taught
yeah.
me.
so she was
Wow.
fortunate to have learned from our experiences to where we trusted her work.
Yes.
So it made it easy for us to kind of
Give our clients
just
like, hey,
refer all the clients that we
Yeah.
I
could
see.
her
Yeah.
way because it was going to
Yeah.
be difficult for
Yeah.
us because of the distance.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I look at her work and I'm like, that's something I would put my name on.
Yeah.
Which
Wow.
is
And to this day, she helps on big orders.
she does. She's helping me this week
Yeah,
with a
this
big
weekend.
quinceañera cake for 300 people that I need
That's
to
just a
take to
big cake.
Indianapolis.
Oh
we're
my
gonna deliver that one.
Because we
goodness.
still have clients that are just stubborn and they're like, I will pay the delivery fee.
And you guys are the
Yeah.
best.
And they're
How can you turn it
it's
down?
literally like a small one tier $60 cake, delivery fee $40. And they're like, I'll pay it. And I'm like, wow, okay. It's amazing. We love them.
but it is that good. I mean, I like I said, I think that it's not just the quality of the craftsmanship. It is also just you're very good at making flavorful cakes.
Thank you.
And so whatever it is, I've not found one that I don't like. I mean, and I don't have a huge sweet tooth, so I don't eat a whole lot of sweets, and so but I will make an exception for your cakes because they're
Thank
good.
you.
We
So
appreciate it.
that's really cool. Did you find that so you had here in my mind is the challenge when we went into certain parts of our business, we had never done it before, and so we had to learn from scratch, you know, certain aspects of our farm to table concept. uh you are in a similar situation, having not really baked, so
Yeah.
you're learning all the baking stuff.
Mhm.
But also you were younger than we were. I had a lot more life experience when we went our direction than what you guys had when you went the Man of Delights
Yeah.
direction. Was it equally hard to learn the business side of it? Because that's usually baking a cake is a different skill set than running a business that's selling cakes.
Yes.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's two entirely different skills. Was that equally hard or challenging, or did it just kind of come naturally as it went?
I think
That
a lot,
was
it was hard.
that was hard.
Because we were trying to actively learn every step of the way. So whenever we thought, okay, it started with, okay, what's the design? What's the cake going to be? How many people? Okay, well, what size pans are we going to need for all of that? Well, I don't know. How are we going to, is it a square? Is it a round cake? Or so learning all of that, and then how are we going to cut it to make sure it feeds that amount of people? And then just,
Man,
so the whole process before even starting on the cake was a task. Getting the colors, good colors, we had to learn from
Oh my gosh, yes.
experience
I did
with
not know
colors
there
that,
was gel colors. I thought it was all food coloring, and I'm like, where
oh,
we get these neon food colorings? We've had so many like
we
food
experimented so many
coloring.
different
It
things.
was just like until I was like, what? I didn't know there was this whole thing
Yeah.
online that you can purchase cake stuff supply from,
yeah,
So
I
we're
see.
discovering, we're to us it was new, figuring all that out. But then finally, when we had a handle on how to make it, then it was the packaging, because we were cutting out uh, the saran wrap
We did that for a long time.
for a long
It
time,
was like, oh, there's bags for these.
and we started wondering. I mean, there has to be a better way, because it was just difficult.
It
Was
was
very stressful
hard.
just to package the things up.
And then sometimes we kill them too small, and it's like, oh, these don't go all
Just
around.
messing up, wasting material, and so the whole step,
Unbelievable.
and then the delivery. Is that's where we quickly learned you have to ride with AC the whole
Yeah.
way, your air conditioner the whole way,
Support.
structure of the cake.
We had an experience with that one time.
Oh boy.
I had my first 3-tier cake. I didn't know anything about support, and we're over here driving 40 minutes out to deliver it on a very sketchy, very not suburban, a very
Well,
rough.
and just in general, we were on the east side of Indianapolis, for whoever's familiar, and then we were delivering it to the west side of Indianapolis. East side of Indianapolis roads aren't the best. West side is equal
Even
to the east
worse.
side or
Yeah.
worse. It's the
Yeah.
same if you're familiar with
And we
those
were
roads.
just, and halfway there, the cake just split in half.
And fell
Like it just, the
caved
bottom
into each other.
just split, and they fell on top of each other. And I was like,
Oh my goodness.
oh my God, what's gonna happen? But we're the type of people that we're not gonna not show our faces. Like this
Wow.
happened. This is part of it. Today we're gonna learn a lesson.
Yeah, and that was part of the learning process of it all.
I think that was one of our biggest.
Realizing that things like that do happen. Because I think
Yeah.
at the moment
Yeah.
we
So
were
what do
caught
you
up on,
do? Yeah,
we were
like
just caught up on let's make this cake, finish it on time, and just produce it.
Yes.
And then went to let's get it there, and then just a few blocks from getting it there was it crumbled into
Oh.
itself. So that's like, okay, so what do we do from here?
so we still showed up
Yeah,
and we told her, this happened. It's still servable because it's all on the box.
Yeah, yeah.
You can still serve it. You're not gonna want to show
Yeah,
this,
you're not gonna wanna
Yeah.
display
and
it.
I said, we have this thing where we do require half down as deposit. I said, you're not gonna pay the balance. We're gonna go get you a bunch of cupcakes, because we want to make sure that you have enough. And she
For your
was like, no,
guests.
no. She's like, I can still serve this. It's fine. It'll be fine. And I said, okay, but you do have a credit with us. I said, no delivery fee. You're not paying the balance.
And
you
we
have a
didn't know
credit.
what was normal to do. We just knew
Yeah.
customer
Yeah.
service. We had grown up in
But
customer
I said,
service. Let's just make them happy.
this lady
Yes.
was willing to, without hesitation, pour all this money in. And I said, we're going to lose her. So what
And
do we do? And so it's like, if you're willing to give us a second chance, because this isn't the type of work that we like to do, but we have to be honest with you. We have to tell you what happened, and I'm not going to not show my face.
Yeah.
And as embarrassing as that situation was, I told her, if you ever decide to give us another chance to show you what we really, how we really do our job, you have a credit with us. And she came back and she paid in full for the cake and she left a $40 tip. And it was like, no,
And
no, no,
she
you don't. And
referred her
she's like,
family
no.
and
Yeah.
basi-
And
yeah.
until this day, she
Yeah.
still orders from.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I love that.
Yeah.
That's it's been statistically proven that I don't recommend it, but if you mess something up in the world of customer service and customer experience, if you mess something up and go overboard in making it right, that person will be more loyal to you than if you never messed up.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
they are quicker to leave you having never messed up than they are if you messed up and made it right.
Yep.
Yeah.
They remember that forever, and
Yeah.
it's just a psychological
Yeah.
trigger that they will be loyal.
And she's still ordering. She's still paying the delivery fee now, and she's pouring out even more, into our business. But yeah.
Yeah. So you guys had this good business going over in Indy, and then you decided to move to Union City. So what kind of precipitated that? And you can get as deep or shallow as you want on that move. Like what were the challenges of that, or the exciting things about that, and why Union City?
Yeah. Well, we came, it had nothing to do with business, had nothing to do with cakes. It was just my parents came
I can
because
the way God works.
they met some people here in Union City that kind of were needing counseling, things like that. And my parents, he's a minister.
But hold on, I would just want to point out, because I want to
how
show
they
you
even
how
came.
detailed God is, right? There was someone that our church from Dallas,
Mother Church
in Texas, okay, brought this minister from Colombia.
And he's a professional clown.
He's a professional
children
clown for
and
children.
adults.
Yes.
But his ministry is in
But he
clown
preaches
and
through
laughter.
through that.
Sure.
Okay. They brought, and his parents were at that service. They saw that, invited him to come preach here to Indianapolis,
Okay.
because we had the church over there at that time. And that clown somehow knew people from Union City.
And he's from Colombia.
And he's from Colombia. So when this family that knew him knew that he was coming, they traveled to Indianapolis to the church where he was going to be at the service, and then met his parents, talked about the need that they had in their hearts. And so his parents started coming to Union City to counsel them. And then apparently the pastors at their church just kind of left them. So
so there was people that were in need, and my parents were coming to help guide them spiritually and in their marriages. And
a Colombian clown literally was the conduit through which you came to Union City.
Yep.
So my parents started coming and people started gathering. And so we minister in music, and she sings and I play instruments, and we help minister in this church services. So my dad asked for help, if we could come and help do the music, and we're like, yeah, that's fine. So we started making the drive. So we'd have church services in Indianapolis. I don't remember what time, but we lived in Indianapolis. We'd go to the church in Indianapolis,
It was
pick up
at
the instruments.
2:30 over there.
Yeah,
No,
it was
1:30.
later than what it was here.
Yes.
So
So
we,
here it
yeah,
was like at 9. So
in
we
Union
would
City.
in Union City.
So we'd go to our church in Indianapolis, pick up all the instruments,
All of 'em.
drive here to make it to the service, to start the service at 9.
Because we were
do-
renting out this little
What was American Legion,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Little
the
building right
old
here.
building.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is, but they have the new one.
Mhm.
So my parents started going there. So people started going, and so we started helping with the music. So we'd pack up, bring the instruments. Once the service was done, we'd pack up all the instruments again in
Quickly.
our SUV, and then drive over to make it in time for the Indianapolis service.
Wow.
Set up again and have service. So we did that. I don't know how
for
long.
like a year.
Okay, so for about a year,
No,
we're
Wow.
I
doing
lie. I think it was less.
maybe. It just
Seemed like a
when-
year.
when it-
huh?
yeah, when it's
Yeah.
happening, when
Yeah.
it's happening, it seems like forever. But
Yeah.
through that process, it was growing. The congregation was growing. So then we were blessed to have met Pastor Richard
Through our brother
here in the
Vincent
community
Hernandez.
through
Mhm.
Vincent Hernandez, and so he kind of made an introduction, and we were able to start kind of partnering to use their church, the building, the facilities. So when we started going there,
We did a combined
we
service.
did a combined service because we are fluent bilingual, Spanish and English. Our church services are in Spanish, but we always interpreted it for anyone that went that
I
spoke
see.
English only and wanted to understand the services.
I see.
So when we came and partnered with Community Fellowship, we started doing some special combined services. And so we started meeting a lot of the congregation, a lot of people, and we've met a lot of good people in this town through
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
And so we have two really good friends of ours here in town that we started kind of getting together more. And every
They
time
knew
we'd
about our
come,
cakes.
and they knew about our cakes by then. We had talked to them and
hmm
started getting to know each other. They would always try to convince us, just put a
Yes.
bug in our
I have
in our
this
minds.
friend whose dad owns this building, and you can live upstairs and do the bakery downstairs. Now, mind you, remember I told you a while ago that my husband's got this thing where we can be like, broke, and he's
I'm a
talking about
dreamer.
he's dreamer. We started our business. We were living in our second apartment, which was a 2-bedroom apartment in a huge kitchen. So we're moving
We
on
were
up.
basing it on the kitchen.
And I remember we were driving.
Sure.
We were
Yeah.
driving downtown one day in Indianapolis, and he was like, and we saw this building, and he's like, "Yeah, when we have our building," and I'm like, "Oh my god, shut up!" Like, what? I'm like, babe, we don't even like
We don't even
barely-
have our jet yet.
We don't
Yeah.
even have a house. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, he's like, when we have our building, and we saw this building downtown which sat in really awkward position. So it's like it was like
started narrow.
smack down in the middle of the street, and
spread out.
it made the street split, and it had a for rent or whatever for lease sign on it, and it was 2-story. And I was like, babe, wouldn't it be awesome if we I think you said that, right? If we lived upstairs and we did the bakery downstairs, and we called, and it was like, ooh, it's not gonna be here because it was
Yeah.
so expensive. But she said that on one of the trips, and I was like, okay,
So
like, we're just gonna shut her
yeah,
up.
seeing
We're gonna say yes. We're gonna see it.
seeing that building in Indianapolis kind of kicked the vision of what
Yeah.
we pictured
What could
for a
happen,
bakery.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
insides of a bakery.
And we started talking
Yeah.
about what we would do even before we had a building. Like, we knew we wanted to have a little and I kept insisting, I wanted a little coffee area with a barista. I don't know how we're gonna find a barista because I don't know anything about
We didn't know
coffee.
anything about, yeah.
Nothing. But I did know that these pastries we're gonna need to, be able to swallow them with something and not just choke on them,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we talked about like where we could do all these things before we even
somewhat of a layout.
knew we would ever have a building
hmm
Yep.
again because the streamer here.
Yeah. So we started coming and more to town, and the friends started kind of, oh, have y'all thought of doing a business, the cakes here? And no, we're fine because we were comfortable. We had
Yeah.
the customers, clients,
Yeah,
Indianapolis.
we had
It was
flow.
we were we had gotten to a point where we were able to purchase our first home, our house. It was big, and we were thinking, okay, next step is a building, but we're always thinking Indianapolis.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
husband finally put up the barn doors that I dreamed of having. We were painting the house.
And then the friends convinced us to come, and we thought, okay, if we are able to make it down, it's going to be late at night. So are y'all okay with showing us the town late at night? They're like, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Well, it was later than we expected.
This day we were delivering a cake, for who? For that lady whose cake we messed up.
Oh my. Wow.
We were delivering cake
Years
for her
later,
that
yeah.
day. It was so
Wow.
far out. It was
Yeah. So now you're over on the west side.
yes,
and-
way further from here. And
Yeah.
so we hit traffic. We're like, hey, we're maybe gonna get there by like 8:30, maybe 9.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. And they're like, that's okay, because we're like thinking, okay, for sure.
And we
No
were
one's
exhausted.
no one's gonna get up and show us the building at that time.
Yeah, we
Little
were
did we
exhausted,
know.
and we're thinking we can probably still make the effort to go at least get to know the town, because no one's going to show us a
Yeah.
building. A realtor. We're thinking Indianapolis. A realtor
No.
is not going to come and show us, and we still didn't know what a small town
Yeah.
was about.
What
So
was made of.
yeah. So then when we got here, they were driving us around town, and they mentioned it again. No, have y'all thought of this and starting the cakes here? And
And I'm
we're like,
"Here she
no,
goes
and we're
again."
like, but at this point, we're like, okay, like let's just
Just show us.
let's just
It's
yeah,
fine,
just show us the building. That's fine. We'll look at it. Well, then she gets on the phone, and we're thinking it's already 9 p.m. There's no way.
There's no
So
way.
we're still confident that we're gonna get away with not seeing anything.
Yeah.
And then so they hang up. They're like, yep. So they're gonna come show us the building here in in a few minutes or something. Like, so we're just looking at each other. We're like,
Are
okay,
you
like what is?
serious?
So then we stop at the building, and we're looking at the outside, and we're like, well, I mean,
And this is the building
This is the one we
catty corner
purchased, yeah.
to McDonald's.
Yes.
Okay.
catty corner from McDonald's. So we look at it from the outside. We're waiting for the whoever owns it to come by, and then at a distance we see the person coming by, and it was someone it's a friend of ours that we had met at the church.
Unreal.
And we had just started to get to know him a little better, and all of a sudden he's coming by. So we of course hug, say hi, and everything, and he's going for the key, and that's when it hit us like, oh,
Oh, it's
he's
their building.
it's their
Wow.
building.
That's amazing.
As soon as they open the doors, we walk in, and the visions that we had of
Everything.
what we wanted it to look like.
It was crazy.
That was
You're
the
like,
setup.
look, babe, we could put this here. Remember this here? We can live upstairs. And it was like, this is not happening. This is not happening. And it happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
It happened. At that time, that building had been sitting there for a while.
Yes. Oh yeah.
A
Yeah.
while.
From what we have
And
understood.
out of nowhere, they started getting people interested in it.
A lot of people.
And I know that there was, and I know this is real because that person reached out again to me to ask about it. They wanted to pay cash, and it was more than what they were asking for. But they had already set their hearts on us, and we told them, I said, well, we don't have any money. We are going to put our house up for sale because we're that serious about it. And whatever we get from it is what we're going to buy it with. So we didn't even have a thought that we were going to buy a house here. It was just like,
Yeah, first it was just
we'll
let's just
figure
get
it
the building
out.
and
Yeah.
figure it out.
We're going to just kind of
It was
make a
kinda
little
walking
corner
by faith
and
again.
walking by faith. And so after all those years of begging my husband for those barn doors,
I had just made them.
literally, I
Somebody
think they
else
were
got
there
'em.
for a week and our house was up for sale. And I was like, well, I guess the next person can enjoy them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that in our house took, again, it was a process. It took 6 months to sell. We just kept getting people who were interested and who were paying, and then all of a sudden their loans wouldn't go through.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, God, like, is this the direction that you're taking us in? If and we know it was, but his timing is just,
Yeah.
it's ridiculously
And you're learning
perfect.
a lot along the way, about each other. The stress levels are different. The situations and the things that you're exposed to are different. And
It was definitely learning to trust God because, again,
yeah,
after all those years, it's sitting there. All of a sudden, they're getting all these offers, and it's kind of like, how can we show our faces with? Still, we don't have anything. We're waiting for this house to sell.
Yeah.
When they're getting cash offers, and
out of nowhere.
and they have to now wait on us, and it's like, people can only wait so long, so we're really like hanging by a thread, just trusting God that He's gonna, God, what you promised, you don't go back on your word. And they were like, nope, we have our heart sets, we know that yeah, it would be better to sell it here because we would make more money out of it. But this will, like, how is it going to benefit our town?
It's
you
a
know?
family that really believed in us, I think, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so, God's blessed us to be able to come across people that He chose
Yeah.
Yeah.
to
And
put them
that
in our
bless
path.
us
Yeah.
in so
Yeah.
many ways.
Yeah.
And we have some friends. They are in a group. They sing, and one very key thing that they told us when we were first starting off with the cakes, because they were nominated. They're in music industry and for Christian music, and they were nominated for some like Grammys, and it was a very
the
legit
awards,
thing in
and
the
stuff
in the
like that.
Latino Hispanic side.
Mhm.
And so we made a Grammys cake for them, and
Oh God,
it
Wow.
looks horrible.
It's so
Looking back
terrible.
at it, it looks horrible, but it was the best thing ever.
But I want
when
to
we made
remake it for them.
Yeah, but it was the best thing ever when we made it. And one thing they told us is, based on an experience that they had, was God's going to allow you to sell exactly what He has in
Not
store
one
for
more,
you to
not one
sell.
less.
Not one more, not one less. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if someone in front of you is selling the same thing, if someone
Yeah.
next to you is selling. God,
Competition shouldn't
that,
shake you.
yeah, you don't base it off that. You see everyone, as everyone help. You have to help anywhere you
Yes.
can, and create a family like way of doing business that we didn't know wasn't always the case between businesses and
Sure.
business owners, and just because of their experiences. And it's tough.
And I think that's what made it easy for us too when we were leaving to show my friend, like, and encourage her, go do your thing.
The one,
Like,
yeah, the
Yeah.
one that wanted
go
to start her own cake
like go
business.
do your business, and I will go help you whenever you need it, and it's
Mhm.
but look at us now, years later, and she's still coming to help us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're blessed to have certain people coming into our lives at key moments and certain times, and we were able to purchase the building. We still hadn't had a house purchased here of where to live, so we were in Anderson. That's where my parents were. So we were back at my parents'.
Yes.
while
Back
we-
Wow.
at getting different. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. And driving.
yeah, and we were doing the driving and everything, and then it just so happened that there was a house
Next
that's
door.
right next to the building that they hadn't put it on the market yet, but they offered it to us in case we wanted to, and we said
From the
yes.
same family.
Wow.
And from the same family, and it's just how
Yeah.
crazy things are, and God is.
Yeah,
So
it
we were able
aligned
to
us
purchase the
perfectly.
building, got the house, and they're right there.
And
catty
so
corner.
your plans will be to eventually utilize that building
Yes.
for Man of Delights. Is that still the plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we had a terrible experience with the architect that we were working with.
just trying to get it up was
Mhm.
there were circumstances that weren't favorable for us.
Yeah.
And so when we initially moved to Union City, the funds were there to get to a phase where we could open for the public.
Yes, and start making some money from it.
Because that was the idea.
Yeah.
And then at that point, open the rest in phases. And but circumstances, things happened. We encountered people that unfortunately things didn't work out for us, and that kind of put a halt on absolutely everything. And
Yeah.
again, we didn't have somewhere
Put
to
us
live
out
yet,
of all the money that we
and
had.
it kind of depleted us. And so we were back to, we had a building that we had dreamed of having. We have a business that we just uprooted and moved from where it was booming
Yeah.
to
the middle of
the
nowhere.
uncertainty. And then
With 3,000 people.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
then
it's insane the growth that we've had since then too.
yeah.
True.
So we we came over here, and from there was when we started making, kind of the community around was very supportive, when they started to get to know our cakes and our friends and everything, kind of
Mhm.
spreading the word, and it just kind of took off from there, really.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So would you say that you are on the cake side, you're more busy now, less busy now, or about the same, or in terms of, my guess would be that perhaps it's a little less from just population.
Well, right
Or-
now, no. Right now, we're actually having to force ourselves to take less.
It's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome,
With
right? I mean,
our-
that's a good
our
problem to have.
Facebook looks inactive for so long, but we are literally almost every weekend making cakes.
Yeah, we probably have
Wow.
a year or two of cakes that we haven't been able to post just because we've
Yeah.
been so busy with cakes and with other things.
I see.
But-
Wow,
but
that's
the
wonderful.
idea is definitely to open up the bakery still. It has shifted a little bit. It'll still be the storefront. People can go in and purchase pastries, and we'll still have coffee, things like that. But we've thought a little bigger now with it. So we want to supply pastries to
I see.
businesses and things,
Yeah. Yeah.
grocery stores. So the thought and idea of it has grown.
Mhm.
Although there hasn't been movement on it, we trust.
Yes. When the time's right,
Yeah,
it'll happen.
it's not a lost dream.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
it's
love
gonna
that.
We
come.
continue to
Yeah.
pray on it, and we know that that's the vision that God gave us from the very beginning, and I don't think that He's done with that.
Yeah.
He's added to it definitely with
Yes.
everything going on. He's added to it. Definitely didn't dream of us ever owning a coffee shop ever.
But yeah, that it does
been a-
fit well with your
Yes.
general direction. And
And
even
it's-
you said you wanted a barista,
yeah.
even though you didn't know what that was at the time,
Yeah.
or what the fullness of what that meant.
Yeah,
So-
and it's crazy how when you put yourself in God's hand and just when people have stolen from you,
Mhm. Yeah.
God gives it back and multiplies it
More than what you could
Mm.
probably do with
Yeah,
your own
and
strength.
it's like this
Yeah.
is really an avenue for us to continue to
pour into
into
the
our
bakery.
cake
Yeah.
business. Like
Yeah.
now our plan is to continue having it as a coffee shop because we
Yeah.
want that to be a coffee shop. I know we've had so many customers that come and they're like, "Are you gonna have a bunch of cakes?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, I probably won't
Yeah,
have
we'll
a bunch
just
of
have
cakes.
certain
You
things.
know,
Yes.
I do. Cakes in a jar will be a thing that we do as frequently as we can.
Yeah.
We'll have little cheesecakes.
We
we'll
had a
have
couple of
cake
those
pops.
cakes in a jar for Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
and those were good. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Real good.
we're gonna try to keep our cooler stocked with things like that. It's definitely like a stepping stone to helping us
Mhm.
with our bakery and being able to continue getting funds to be able to put into that.
Eventually. Yeah.
But we definitely still want to keep that a coffee shop. Do what
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, it's
But it goes hand in hand. Like there's no
Yes.
there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not like it was.
insane how
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good complementary business that does fit very well
Yeah.
with the two. The
And
two
I
go
think
together.
that's why we've developed so much love for it too,
Yeah.
because it goes together. We want to take care of it and make it grow
Yeah.
as if we were the ones that started it.
And
even
the
though we
energy,
Yeah.
the energy and the enthusiasm, and it's almost as if. So the way we were with the cakes is what we're doing now with the coffee. It's just we didn't know up until now what coffee really was.
Yeah.
It's so complex, and we're still trying to learn it. And
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
barely beginners, if that.
Sure.
But so business end side, we're good, but then learning this coffee is just, it's been great. So
Yeah.
we're putting a lot into that and just trying to, reach different levels. And we were blessed to be, to have, the previous owners, Angie and Travis, they have been really great. We've been blessed to have come and partner with them in this opportunity.
and for
And,
them trusting us
yeah.
with
Mhm.
again with nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing we had to offer except we'll pour ourselves into with everything that we have,
Yeah.
to continue it.
Yeah.
So that one day you can look back and see what you started.
Yeah.
Look at the seed that
Yeah.
So
that
that's
you
definitely a
planted.
big motivator, because when someone starts something and lets it go for whatever
hard.
reason, I mean, it's not easy.
No.
So
no,
then that
not at
puts-
all.
Yeah, that adds a pressure to us to continue to do as what is the best of us to pour into it.
Yeah.
And then we are in particular really not hard on ourselves, but we know we've pushed ourselves so much in the past that now it's just different levels of pushing ourselves
Yeah.
into trying to make something out of nothing or something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
evolve. Or so it's been great, I think, and it's just Union City has been very supportive, and we were surprised.
We were shocked when we didn't know that the city was going to put a sign up when we bought the building.
Oh, yeah,
how
over
they
here.
welcome you with all these signs, and we were again living he had said we were living again with his parents when we sold our house, transitioning to here. We were his parents 6 months again. and um and it's even harder the second time around because you have a whole life already and all this furniture and all
Routine.
these doggies,
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Been there, both been there myself.
yeah.
Yep.
And I woke up one day. I don't even think we woke up. I think it was an all nighter that day, but my phone kept going off. And I'm like, why is it going off? It's like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning when it's happening. And I like, there's so much activity on the Mana page. And I was like,
Social media.
we didn't post anything. Did I maybe accidentally post something? And I'm like panicking, right? And I'm like,
We're
I've
sleep
done that before,
deprived
you
and
know, like kind of like when you butt dial someone, you know, like
Yeah.
did I upload something? And I look and there's a post that they had tagged us and it said welcome to Union City, and all
it's a
these
nice
people from
feeling.
Union City were like following us, and I'm like, how we went from, I think
Yeah.
we had like 1,000, no, we had like 600, no, 800 something followers at that time in the time span of like 6 years.
Right.
It's taking a
Again,
while.
so busy.
So from
not
one
really
night to the other, go like over 1,000 followers and stuff. And I'm like,
from a small town.
from a small
Yeah.
little town.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
From a
again, we
tiny
didn't know what small town was. We just
Yeah.
we started realizing that as we're getting older, we're liking seclusion a lot more.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can be
For sure.
dangerous because now sometimes we miss Indianapolis because we're like, oh, there's no restaurants here that, you know, we
That's
Yeah.
go to.
probably the food is probably the only
Yeah,
thing.
the
I
food,
agree.
you know, because you
The
could go
options. Yeah.
go
Sure.
to this corner and you have like 10 options and then this corner
Yeah.
and another 10. But when we go deliver cake on our way, we're like, oh, we remember why we don't like it anymore.
The
Like,
traffic
the
and the
traffic,
drive.
and it's
You've
just,
you've
it's not
become
even traffic. There's
countrified.
just too many people around. It's so
Yeah.
busy, and we're already so busy. You know, it just makes it feel overwhelming and exhausting. And it's like, no, we're not trying to live that life anymore. You know, let me go somewhere where I can have a little bit more peace. But
Yeah.
that was just amazing. That was like it really threw us by surprise. Like the welcoming was so warm, you know, and
Yeah.
the way that it just expanded our viewers, you know,
Sure.
it was crazy.
So
That was shocking.
yeah, I mean, I think that Union City definitely has a very community driven spirit. I mean, there's disagreements and things like that, but I think that for the most part, everybody wants, you know, the town to grow and to be, you know, successful and to flourish and, you know, for everybody to be prosperous. And
It's hard.
I mean, it is. It's very
It's hard
difficult because, you
in a
know,
small town.
yeah, I mean, the system is kind of stacked against it. And so it's difficult. And people that are doing things, I think that they should get credit for doing them. You know, I mean, like you're trying to do something, you know,
And-
you could do nothing.
Yeah. And it definitely tests your faith. You know,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, whatever you may put faith in, it definitely tests it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. We're running pretty decent. Shifting gears a little bit because I know that you guys do a lot of interpretation and translation and those kind of things, and in just daily conversations, that I kind of gather that you guys like to be a bridge between cultures, you know, and are well suited for that, both with your knowledge of language and your personal experience of growing up and all of that. So you've grown up within those both cultures. You've got the language of both cultures, and now you're in a business of hospitality, which is all about, you know, just customer experience and those kind of things. Tell me about your ideas with, you know, like what we see downtown here. So I'll just maybe set the stage a little bit just from, I mean, I'm looking out the window here, but like it's, you know, there are businesses that are definitely owned by and catered to Hispanic customer base.
Yes.
And then there's others that have been here a lot longer that just that's not their target customer because that was never even a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like the the diversity
separate,
is such a more of a recent thing than, you know, it's always been here, but it's growing and it's being, I think, what's the word, adopted by and accepted by and nurtured by a lot of people on both in both cultures. Like they, I think this is something that the people of Union City want and embrace. And so what in your mind, you know, in the downtown, like what's your vision for how it'll eventually look? So 5 years down the road, if, you know, have you guys had any visions like that? Like, you know, you started a cake business from a vision from God. You know, you've thought about moving here and all that through looking at the plan of God. Do you guys have anything like that in terms of the bigger city, you know?
Yeah, the first thing, and that you mentioned, you know, bridging, let's say culture, bridging people. I think a big thing for us is to be a blessing where we are. So we're here in Union City, and we want to be a blessing in any way, whether, you know, just as humans, as human beings,
With any
people,
culture. Totally.
yeah, and you know, business, just anything. So it's just in us from our past experiences and growing up, and what's rooted in us is to be of service. And part of that is because of being bilingual and moving fluently between both cultures. It's just natural to us to want to combine it all. Because of our experiences, we know that it isn't as simple as the wanting to do it. It's being able to navigate. It's the biggest thing.
I think understanding our culture and how we think and how stubborn we can be because of fears, maybe, you know, language, of course, and just the old school mentality that we bring back from wherever we're from tends to pull people to where they know. And that's what we're trying to show or teach, maybe help them with, you know, like expanding. There's more out there.
Yeah.
You know,
if you can learn to make cakes, then we could all learn to be, you know, unified and even, you know, even though they're different cultures and stuff. Like
and
it's a matter of learning.
And we're always up for helping in any way we can with that. But yeah, what we see, just, you know, from our view, from where we stand, coming into a small town and then realizing how rich it is in, let's say, the Hispanic Latino community, and then you know, the American culture, and, you know, just you know, everyone that's already, you know, here. There's a want on both sides to combine. There's a want to, you know, let's say the Mexican cuisine, the Mexican foods, the Mexican, like, it's accepted.
Oh yeah, it's celebrated.
Yeah, and then the problem then can be with the Hispanic Latino community, that not having that exposure to, let's say, fine steaks or good steaks, not having, you know, the certain restaurants that you don't have.
what is a deli?
In your, what is a deli?
Yeah.
What is cheeses?
You know, the different cheeses, you know, it's just very different as far as the culture goes. So then when you come here and you don't have someone already that can help you navigate it, as she said, you stick to what you know.
That is an interesting insight. Do you think that that's something that would be, if for instance, because I think it's what you're describing it from their perspective, and I say there because, you know, but from the Hispanic culture's perspective, that there might be some fears or some, you know, like apprehension about those things just because they're not, it's taking a step out. It takes a lot of faith to do that. You feel vulnerable. Do you think that, for instance, you said, what's a deli? Like if we did, you know, an event and had those things set out and said, come and try this. The same way that, you know, for instance, I go across the street and it's like, I've never heard of these dishes before. And I'll ask her, you know, how do you pronounce it? What's in it? Those things. Do you think that that's something that they would be interested in participating in?
It would, especially if you can show how you can combine what you sell with what they already make.
Yeah.
What they're familiar with.
Not only that, because I think they're even accepting that they're even accepting of things that don't have anything to do with their cuisine.
Sure. I'm not Italian, but I love pasta.
Right. I think the key is
click. that
the
happens.
key is you want to put something out there in their language. Most of them stick to where they're at because they don't
Fascinating.
know how
Yeah.
to speak your language.
Yeah.
So if you have some kind of welcoming, even just a sign in Spanish, even if they don't see any Hispanic face there, but they see a sign in Spanish, they're gonna be like, "Oh,
Some
I'm
will linger
understanding
in.
what that
Yeah.
means. Like, let's go and see what that's about." But if you have a Hispanic face or someone there who can help with
Yeah.
their language, it's even better because I'll tell you this:
Fascinating.
the amount of people that have came into the coffee shop and said, "I didn't know that someone here spoke Spanish. Otherwise, I would have came."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people, and I say amazing because just in general, to paint a picture for you, Hispanics aren't the type to go out and buy coffee because we have coffee at home.
Yeah.
We'll buy
Yeah.
big
Okay,
old,
what
you know,
You got the
Folgers.
Folgers or whatever.
Folgers,
Yeah.
instant coffee. We're not
Yeah.
gonna go spend extra money
Yeah.
on fancy sugary coffee drinks when I can brew it up at home
Yeah.
in my old school pot. That
Yeah.
goes pee, you know.
Flavorings, like now you see it
What is
because of
that?
you buy
What is
the
a latte?
creamer,
Yeah.
What
vanilla
is
creamer.
espresso?
Yeah, but no, that doesn't. Now it's popping up, but just in our experiences, um, my mother-in-law, she'll tell us, like, I mean, you'll see a coffee shop over here, but it's for the higher end.
It's for the
It's
rich
for the
people.
higher
see.
class.
I see.
It's still not widely
Hasn't pervaded the culture that, you know what, this is a every man's drink.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yes. And it's because it's expensive for
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
You know, so but you one thing that we realize once we come here, it's not so much that it's expensive because now here you're living a little bit better than you did over there.
Mm-hmm.
Just a tad. So you have the means to go out. They just don't know what to spend it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because no one's taught them
Yeah.
that.
Parents
So
don't know it, so the kids
coming
grow up.
in and then they still don't understand what you're telling them. They're just like, okay, well, what do you think I should get? And then
Interesting.
you give them something that you ask them. In our case, we ask them, do you like caramel, or do you prefer a little bit more of the coffee taste, or do you want extra sweetness?
So we have to walk them through.
Yeah.
So I wonder, can I interrupt you
Yeah.
for a second? I wonder if, the school has been making tremendous inroads, and they are, I mean, leading the way, I think, in a lot of the multiculturalism that's happening, and celebrating it and trying to nurture it. And, they have programs that they're instituting and things like that. And I wonder if it wouldn't be a neat thing, particularly when we do in the summer, when we do the festival. I wonder if it would be a neat thing to add to those festivities, or maybe earlier in the day, or even make it a couple day thing, where students that are family members or even, whatever, from the school could literally guide people through the businesses and stuff, and kind
Yeah.
of,
That's a neat idea.
like they would be ambassadors,
Yeah.
because a lot of times they are, and I hear that from, because I'm on, have been involved in several little things within the school, what they are doing in terms of reaching out and community outreach and all those things. So, it just makes me think, I mean, that might be something that would really be a neat collaboration between the school and the businesses and the Hispanic community,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of make it a very welcoming and not as vulnerable.
Yeah, and we can't really, we speak from our experiences. I think one, hearing you say all that, that's a really neat idea, and I think that it would be effective too, because you do have a lot of, let's say, Hispanic owned, Latino owned business owners now. It's starting to grow.
Yeah.
We know personally a few of them. I want to say maybe we're the younger of the bunch in that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a unique situation where we can understand the young, the young
The younger
generation, and then everyone else as well.
Yeah.
So I think showing or introducing things to, let's say, the students in a way that's fun for them, appealing to them, that they can relate to.
Then they bring their parents
Yeah.
out, their family
That,
out.
and
Yeah.
and understanding how difficult it can be to
Yeah.
change mindsets of the
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about generations that are born here,
Yes.
Yeah.
Not
So,
just brought here even
yeah,
young.
so it's different. And it's so
Yeah.
awesome how we get that unique position that we're in, because you got people who were brought here, who have been in Mexico, know what the culture's like over there, come here. Are not only can we help bridge the gap between the cultures, but also between the ages,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Because that
Yeah.
is a thing, isn't
the
it?
generations, because
Yeah.
because they're the ones
like-
that are going to continue to,
Mhm.
and really the ones that are going to bring more of the future
Yeah.
traffic.
Because
Sure.
even within just your own family, you got these kids now thinking, well, mom and dad have this just very old school mindset. We can't do this. They don't know what this is because they grew up
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
We grew up here. It's
Do you
totally
think
different.
that a lot of that is the fact that because in a big way you get to see it kind of from a almost like with new eyes, what it might have been like in the 1700s and 1800s and even the early 1900s, with people coming over on boats and seeing Ellis Island and everything, and it was a lot of older people with younger kids, and their whole mission in life was just to get here. Like they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, I'm here,
That's
I
the
got a
Hispanic
house,
And to
community.
lay
I can
low.
die now. My kids are in the land of opportunity.
That's-
Do you think that that's kind of a thing where that's maybe why a lot of the older generation still kind of just sticks to themselves
Yeah.
too, is because they're like, my goal was just to
American
get
dream.
something better for my children. So I
Yeah.
don't have this giant, I don't have the youth that you
Yeah.
have of wanting to be entrepreneurial and build a business, and
Yeah.
and it's taken hold even a little more with you guys than it might the olders, because to them their goal is just to get you guys here.
Yep.
And their grandkids to have even more opportunity.
Yeah.
And we
Do
see
you
it.
think that?
We see it with parents now. Like we see it all the time. Where
I mean, that was my parents. In all honesty,
Yeah.
that was my parents.
they come here. The whole thing is to just get here. Like you said, lay low, stay out of trouble. Provide a good life for you because I want you to be better.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, what does better mean?
Yeah.
Because they don't know
Because
the
they don't
culture
know
here.
what better is.
Yeah.
Other than just stay out of trouble, and financially things look a little different. Things are
Yeah.
cleaner, things are neater, things are but
Sure.
but what truly is better? Then you have economic independence. Well, how do you reach that?
Yeah.
So you hear someone say, "Oh, it's through school." So okay, that's the path they'll take. You hear someone else hear something else. That's the path they'll take. So it's I think it's great that there are people that are willing, or a town that's willing to open up their arms to everything, because then they start to formulate, hey, this is better. This is the next thing that I can do. I can also be involved in what is a deli.
Yes.
How does
Yeah.
everything come to the deli? Like then the farm,
Yeah.
my parents grew up in a farm-like environment. They did cattle and all that, but that doesn't mean they necessarily did too. The children
Sure.
did too. All they know is our parents were always tired all the time, but they didn't open up their own store.
Yeah.
They didn't this or that. They worked it for someone else, or maybe it was just enough to bring food to the table.
Yeah.
So in their mind, it's a farm is not, how do you sustain yourself with that? Well, then there are opportunities here that teach you how to do that.
Yeah.
The delis here on how you can produce and provide, and there's just so
Yeah.
many different things you can do with it.
But I think it does.
That's
start,
exciting.
I think it does start with having someone there who can explain things to them, because, like, for instance, we have our baby's babysitter. They came to see us, and they're like, we wanted to have, like a sandwich. And I was like, oh, I just closed up the kitchen. I said, but next door they make amazing sandwiches. So I brought them over, and they were looking at it, and they had never been
Yeah.
to, like, what is a deli? What is,
What's a panini?
Yeah. And so we kind of started reading through them, and they ate. And I came back to when they go do our jobs, and came back, and I was like, how was it? Like, it was so good, and these are
Stuff really
what
good.
kind of sandwiches? I didn't know they had sandwiches like this here, because you tell us Hispanic a sandwich, and we talking about
maybe,
bologna,
turkey maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
or a sandwich on like a sub type of bread, not
Yeah.
what is a grilled bread? What is
Yeah.
a panini? What is, just like the different types of avocado mayo, avocado ranch.
Sure.
We don't,
Yeah.
we don't really do that over there. I mean, we're talking about like salsa,
Yeah.
and, like just the hot stuff on. As long as it's got that, it's good.
Yeah.
No, they've
No, I get it.
they've how do you call it?
Kind of developed.
They've developed a lot more in their cuisine to trying to kind of match. But I see
I
that.
love that.
But I see that from a perspective. Like my mom right now, she lives in a bordering state in Mexico.
Okay.
So further in, I don't know. They're
Sure.
still stuck, to their Mexican
Yeah.
cuisine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just I think it's just all about having someone that's willing to walk them through it.
And have the patience.
Because when you're here, because if you're here, you might as well be here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well experience the fullness of what it is to be here. Like,
And I don't even really, to be honest with you, I don't even really think it's so much that more people are coming. I think they were already here. They just didn't know that these places were happening.
Sure.
I mean, I know more people are coming.
yeah.
But I think they all kind of gather again in one place because that's all they know, because the people
Yeah.
there speak their language and they don't know how to tell you
Well,
what you
and
need.
and the thing is that that's just human nature. People,
Yeah.
sometimes I hear things and read things in the news and things and I'm just like, that's always been human nature. It's
Yeah.
always been human nature to be around people that
That you didn't
there's
know.
evolutionary or even whatever adaptive reasons
Right.
that you would do that you would feel safer in that environment.
Yeah, your first
like
instinct's not gonna go to work somewhere where you've never been.
No,
or
and-
with someone
and-
you've never met.
and the idea they're like, yeah, well, and you assimilate and all that, but assimilation takes time. I mean, there's still a Chinatown in all of the major cities
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
east and west coast. There's
Yeah.
still Little Italy in all of those cities. There's still the Irish neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Boston is known as a whole Irish city. Like
Yeah.
there is, we are just insulated from the realities that those people were going through at those times, but it's very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
identical
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
now.
It's the same thing.
It's
yeah.
exactly the same thing all over. Like, yeah.
And then one thing here in a small town or Union City, if you think about bigger cities, so you have more of the chains, food store,
Yeah.
the food restaurant chains,
Yeah,
food
like
chains,
franchises and stuff,
things
yeah.
like that. But then you come here, and I mean, there's only McDonald's, but then the rest is closest to authentic
Yes.
on both sides.
Yes. True.
So that's unique too. That I think hasn't.
That is something that
explore-
probably, is an inroad more so than the gimmicky, because what you get is you get the anonymity. You can go through a Burger King drive-through and it's pretty anonymous. So maybe it's, but in terms of actually human to human contact, the
Mhm.
little independent places like a Hometown Coffee, I mean, that's where culture happens. And so, that's exciting. I really love this conversation. I am so happy you guys took time to be here with us, and
Thank you for
we
having us.
we will
definitely.
definitely have
We
you
feel
guys
special.
back. Oh no, this has just been
We
great.
feel
No, and we
special.
don't be surprised if I have you back on here in a few months and ask you for an update how things are going. But
We're up for it.
good. I do have one final question, just very quickly.
Yes.
Being that you guys are bilingual, do you dream in Spanish or English?
Well,
Is
it
that a
depends.
thing?
For me,
He
I don't
doesn't
know, but
even
for me,
dream.
for me, if I did, what I know is if I had a good taco before going to sleep, it's gonna be Spanish.
Is that for real or are you joking?
I'm joking. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know.
Yeah.
He never remembers his dreams.
I
He
don't
says
either.
he
I don't
doesn't
remember my
dream.
dreams.
But
I know I
everybody
dream in
dreams.
English, but
But-
I don't remember them.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I speak both fluently all the time, every day with someone.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
maybe
think
I just don't pay
I think
attention
it,
to what
okay,
my
but
dreams are.
Probably.
I can speak for him because I do remember when he has had dreams and he's shared them with me. If it's in a church setting, it's in
Oh,
Spanish.
Okay.
Ah,
Yeah, that
that's
I do know
interesting.
because you've had several of those.
Yeah.
okay.
And if it's at like a work related, it's in English.
That would make
Yes, that
sense
makes
because
sense.
that's how
With
you
me,
experience it.
It's mostly in Spanish, which is weird because you'll hear me switching from Spanish to English quick. Like, not that I don't stick to my Spanish, but I haven't had to translate as much as he has, so he speaks it a lot more.
So you're saying
I should
that
speak
you
it a lot
feel
more,
like
but-
English is about as dominant to you as Spanish, and yet you dream in Spanish.
Yes, which is
Wow.
weird.
Yeah, I guess
That's
so.
really neat. Very fascinating. I appreciate that.
But we do talk to each other in Spanish sometimes, just in our general like.
Well, and you've mentioned that you
daily
speak
conversation.
Spanish to your daughter or in her presence because, and I think what you said is that it's more prevalent to learn English. So
Yes.
she's going to learn that anyway.
She's
Yeah, she's
gonna
gonna
learn
learn it
it.
You've got to
regardless.
work,
There's
and
no
I think
way
that's
around
cool
it.
to keep her heritage and stuff
I
intact. I
used
think
to
that's neat.
I used to tell my husband, no, I'm gonna teach our kids Spanish and English because I don't want them getting made fun of at school because we
Yeah.
have seen that a lot where
Sure.
kids go into school and they only speak Spanish and they get made fun of. But then I think back and I'm like, my child's not gonna remember what happened when she was 2 years old.
No.
I'd rather her grow up not even knowing how she knows Spanish. She just knows it rather than, because of my fear that, someone will point something out to her. No, I think as a parent, it's part of your responsibility to teach them
And we
what a great asset it is to
Yeah.
know both of
Yeah.
those things. Let
Oh,
the kids
absolutely.
make fun
And
of
I
you
think that-
because you
Nah.
can speak too and they
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah, and if we're being honest, I mean, as much as I try to focus on speaking Spanish to her, I do. But as soon as we step foot out of the house, it
It's
is all
English.
English.
Of
Yeah.
course, because that's
So-
that's how you're interacting with
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
a lot of the people
And
that
that's
you.
what pushes us more to constantly
Absolutely.
reminding us speak Spanish to her, speak Spanish to her.
That has to be protected and
Yeah.
carved out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you'll lose it. I mean, I've grown up
Sure.
speaking it my whole life. I speak to my parents in Spanish, and so I'm sitting
lot
there
of words
sometimes
that
like,
doesn't remember.
Fumbling for a
how you
word.
say, how do you say, and I'm like, I should be embarrassed.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, thank you guys very much. It's
Yeah.
been a great time here. And I would say for anybody who doesn't know or hasn't had it, come out to Hometown Coffee because it's definitely one of the gems that we have here in Union City.